Chapter 11. 3 breaths to go up the mountain, 1 tael of silver each time. Recognized by the heavenly Tao? Fei Long shrugged, a bit helpless, and said, "That condition is quite high. Firstly, the person who establishes the sect must be at the Golden Core early stage. This is a hard requirement. I've looked into it. You can solve it by finding a cultivator at the Golden Core stage to help you establish the sect, and then they withdraw from the sect master position, transferring it to you. For a second-generation sect, there are no cultivation restrictions. The cost for this is about 100 spirit stones. Besides that, you must also own a mountain as the foundation of the sect, and you need 5 disciples to establish the sect with you, and so on. It's extremely complex, and the total cost will be at least 200 spirit stones." Chun Xiu nodded, not asking for more details. 200 spirit stones was a bit much. Establishing a sect would have to be postponed a bit. At least they didn't have the conditions for it right now. Then he looked inward at his body, gazing at the panel enveloped in mist within him. Name: Chun Xiu. Cultivation: Qi refining 3rd level, 1%. Word art: rising steadily, foundation establishment postponement, wraith summoning. Mind cultivation technique: withered tree comes to spring. Cultivation technique: earth escape technique, obscuring skill. Spirit beast: none. Influence: none. Country: Great Xia Kingdom. So far, his 3 word art are relatively independent existences with no strong connection. As a word art group, it's clearly not a very good combination, but fortunately, he has many opportunities to acquire word art later on. As long as he lives long enough. Earth escape technique and obscuring skill were also cultivation techniques he obtained in the Heavenly Tao secret realm. He learned them to major achievement and they were extremely useful. It was only by relying on these 2 cultivation techniques that he could escape so smoothly with Fei Long. According to what he learned from Fei Long, while killing Yao beasts can increase cultivation, it's not long-lasting, or rather, it's only a clever trick during the early stage. When cultivation is low, killing Yao beasts can indeed quickly increase cultivation. Generally, members of large families, on the day they come of age, will have the family prepare a large number of heavily injured Yao beasts, and they can basically reach Qi refinement stage great perfection in 1 day. Does this count as cheating? Naturally, it does. It's just that there's nothing to be upset about. But later on, for example, at the foundation establishment stage or golden core stage, it becomes very difficult to improve your cultivation by killing Yao beasts. Yao beasts at that cultivation usually have developed sentience, and they will look out for each other, making it very hard to find a lone Yao beast of the same realm. And the most common method for increasing cultivation is ingesting spiritual qi. By circulating the mind cultivation technique, each full cycle within the body will draw spiritual qi from the outside. Each time the mind cultivation technique is circulated, cultivation progress will increase slightly. The absorption speed depends on the mind cultivation technique's rank and the concentration of spiritual qi in the environment. His mind cultivation technique, Withered Tree Comes to Spring, is the only yellow-grade medium-grade mind cultivation technique in this small world, which is considered quite good. Because it is a Heavenly Tao mind cultivation technique produced in the small world, he reached the major achievement realm as soon as he learned it. He tried sitting cross-legged on the road, circulating his mind cultivation technique to ingest spiritual qi. With the rank of his mind cultivation technique in an environment with normal spiritual qi concentration, it would take roughly 3 days to break through to qi refining 4th level. That's not slow. It's much faster than he imagined. It seems cultivating immortality isn't that difficult after all. As if seeing Chun Xiu's thoughts, Fei Long, sitting opposite him, sighed helplessly and said, "Brother Chun Xiu, you seem to have a slight misunderstanding about the path of cultivation. How could a normal person at Qi refining 3rd level have the opportunity to come into contact with a mind cultivation technique? Not to mention it's a mind cultivation technique produced in the Heavenly Tao secret realm, which directly enters the major achievement realm upon learning. Both of these opportunities are very rare, and with them, the cultivation speed will naturally be much faster. But in reality, the path of cultivating immortality is very difficult. The two of them kept the items they could use and planned to sell the rest at the market. He didn't want the mind cultivation technique. He wanted a blade-type spirit treasure. He had previously luckily picked up a mind cultivation technique, though it was only yellow-grade low rank and he had only cultivated it to minor achievement realm. It certainly wasn't as good as a heavenly Tao mind cultivation technique that directly reaches major achievement realm upon learning. But every cultivator only has 3 chances in their lifetime to change their mind cultivation technique without any cost. After that, changing mind cultivation techniques would require a certain price. Learning a mind cultivation technique for the first time would use up one of these chances. The remaining 2 chances were extremely precious, and he didn't plan to use them to swap for a mind cultivation technique of the same rank. If he were to swap, he should at least get a yellow-grade high-grade mind cultivation technique, right? Nothing unexpected happened at the inn. After eating and drinking their fill, they scattered a handful of copper coins on the table and continued their journey. They rented a horse at the inn, and the two of them, with one horse, set off again. Chun Qiu couldn't ride a horse. He had never learned before. He could only sit behind Fei Long. Although he felt a bit awkward, for safety's sake, he could only wrap his arms around Fei Long's waist, looking at the scenery whistling past his ears. When the sun was already high in the sky, Fei Long turned and jumped off the horse, handing the reins to a stable boy at the inn. Then he put his hands on his hips and looked at a tall mountain next to the inn, smacking his lips with emotion. "We're here, Brother Chun Qiu. This is the market I told you about. Built atop the mountain peak. If you can fly with a sword, just fly up. Or you can climb up the mountain path. If you can neither fly nor want to climb, you can take the express passage next to it." Beyond the main road, there was a winding small path that circled the mountain. This was the path taken by the poor people to ascend the mountain. Besides that, there was also a middle-aged man with a full beard, a relatively short stature, and extremely dense body hair, standing there holding a sign. Express passage. 3 breaths to ascend the mountain. 1 tael of silver per trip. 3 breaths to ascend the mountain? Chun Qiu scanned the sign with a suspicious expression, then looked up at the distant mountain peak that pierced through the clouds. It was thousands of zhang above the ground, already considered a top-tier high mountain. Could one ascend in 3 breaths? Even with sword flight, the speed wouldn't be this fast, would it? Heh! Fei Long, standing beside him, just squinted and grinned. "Brother Chun Qiu, you'll know if you try it. I can only say it's absolutely unique." Chun Qiu didn't say anything more. It was just 1 tael of silver, which he could afford. He had gained quite a bit of broken silver and copper coins in the small world, so he wasn't short on these small sums. He casually tossed 2 taels of silver into the bearded man's hand. Before he could say anything, he saw the bearded man suddenly thrust out his right hand, gripping his shoulder tightly. Then he felt an extremely strong sense of weightlessness beneath his feet. The surrounding scenery seemed to turn into countless points of light, and in less than a breath, it instantly returned to normal. And when he opened his eyes again, he was already standing on the cliff edge of that tall mountain. A wooden platform was laid on the ground, and beside it, a young man sat cross-legged, cracking melon seeds and reading a picture book. A sign was also stuck in the ground with an arrow pointing. When Tian Market before he could react to what was happening, he saw the bearded man who had been holding his shoulder release him again, then take a deep breath and suddenly run towards the edge of the cliff, plunging straight down into the abyss. Chapter 12. Bloodline entries between immediate family members. Chapter 12. Bloodline word art. Among direct relatives, Chun Qiu quickly stepped forward, looking at the bearded man who was now in mid-air, falling through the clouds at freefall speed and plummeting into the abyss. At this mountain's height, even a foundation establishment stage cultivator would surely die. However, after more than 10 breaths, the bearded man suddenly appeared out of thin air beside him, holding Fei Long in his hand. He didn't speak to either of them, but like before, he took a running start and plunged into the abyss again. "How was it?" Fei Long looked around, somewhat excitedly saying, "It feels pretty good. I experienced it for the first time too. 1 or 2 silver taels per trip is too expensive. I never splurged before." That bearded fellow and the person cracking melon seeds next to him are biological brothers. These two brothers awakened an extremely special bloodline word art when they first broke through to the chi refinement stage. This is a word art that only direct bloodline relatives have a very low probability of awakening. The word art's effect is that the two brothers' blood is like water, inheriting the same bloodline. As long as they are within 100 kilometers, one of them can instantly arrive next to the other, regardless of the environment. The specific level of the word art is unknown, but it's definitely not low. And that bearded fellow, after breaking through to the foundation establishment stage, also obtained a rare blue word art, never fall to death, meaning he won't be injured no matter how high he falls from. Thus, the two brothers started a fast pass service here at Wention Market. It's been over a year now, and it's quite a story in Wention Market. Chun Chiu stood silently, expressionless, for a moment, not knowing what to say. Bloodline word art. Instant teleportation. Never fall to death. Absolute rule. With so many word art, which, when linked together, are almost invincible, he could think of countless ways to maximize the benefits of these word art. What could they do that wouldn't make money faster than this fast pass service? 1 or 2 silver taels per trip. At most, they probably earn a few spirit stones a day, right? What's the difference between this and farming with an emperor's golden hoe? At the very least, you could set up some kind of long-distance fast arrival bus service between 2 cities. The income would definitely be higher than this, wouldn't it? He wasn't sure if they could only carry one person at a time. If they could carry people as long as there was physical contact, or as long as they were controlled, then carrying 17 or 18 people at once shouldn't be a problem. This is merely commercial value. If it were strategic value, then it would be a ghost-like assassination squad. You have such powerful abilities and you use them for a mountain climbing fast pass? Chun Chiu felt a little dizzy. This act of squandering resources made his mouth twitch slightly. Just then, the young man sitting cross-legged on the ground, cracking melon seeds and reading a picture book, casually said, "The person who brought you up is my younger brother. He's a bit shy with strangers and doesn't talk much. You can also come to me to go down the mountain. The price remains the same." "How much do you earn every day now?" Chun Chiu stared at the young man and asked, feeling that these two were a bit wasteful. "No matter how much you earn, work with me, and I'll pay you 3 times that every day." Although he didn't have that many spirit stones right now, he believed that as long as these two could be used by him, he would quickly earn a large amount of spirit stones. "Oh!" The young man raised his eyelids and glanced at Chun Chiu, then couldn't help but laugh. "You, my friend, are quite interesting. Many people have tried to recruit us, but you're the first to offer such a low price. In your eyes are our two brothers only worth 6 spirit stones a day? Or is it that your family's financial resources are only enough for you to offer this price?" All right. The young man waved his hand somewhat helplessly. "Just by your attire, it's clear you're not from a wealthy family, and you don't have much background. Those with a bit of background fly up themselves. They wouldn't take our fast pass. To enter the market, go that way. If fate allows, we'll invite you for a drink another day." Chun Chiu didn't say anything more upon hearing this. He just turned and led Fei Long onto the small path paved with stone steps. He had thought that these two were unaware of the power of their abilities, but now it was clear that they knew it as clearly as a mirror. They were just using Wention Market to spread their reputation, and then seek a reliable master. Indeed, he was even a bit envious of these two brothers. Other forces probably sent even more people to recruit them. As time passed, they would likely successfully join a very good force. This was a good method. Compared to actively seeking allegiance, being actively recruited and joining a force would clearly give them much higher status and confidence within that force. However, these two brothers were clearly unaware of the danger involved. There are many people who believe that if they can't get something, no one else should either. No matter which force they joined, they would easily be subjected to assassinations by other forces afterward. Reputation is a double-edged sword. It has both advantages and disadvantages. After walking a short distance along the stone path, they saw a city. The city walls were even taller than Fufeng City's walls, and they felt more imposing and looked very shocking. But Chun Xiu was a bit confused. Since it was already located on the mountain peak, who was it built to defend against by spending so much money on city walls? It felt a bit like spending money on a facade. Fei Long had been here once or twice and now walked in front like a tour guide, continuously introducing, "Once you enter the city gate, you're in the market. Entering the market is free. There's no charge. Inside, it's divided into 18 small areas and one central area. This city gate of ours is Seeking Immortal Gate, the main city gate on the west wall of Wentian Market. This market's area is almost as large as Fufeng City. Naturally, it's not just a trading platform. As long as you embark on the path of cultivation, basically any demand you have can be met here. After entering through this gate, the first area is Area 4, which is the life-buying zone. This used to be a simple platform for posting and accepting assassination missions, and eventually, countless cooperation and transaction methods evolved. But the area name is still Life-Buying Zone. Chun Xiu nodded, indicating understanding. After stepping through the city gate, he glanced at the main road in front of him, paved with green bricks. It was quite wide as an official road, allowing 8 carriages to travel side by side. The shops on both sides of the main road were also decorated with lanterns and festive, quite lively. It looked quite positive, making it hard to associate it with posting assassination missions. And on both sides of the road, many cultivators were sitting cross-legged. Many cultivators had a sign placed in front of them. He looked at a bald man closest to him, shirtless, holding a Buddhist ring knife, with his eyes closed, sitting cross-legged on one side of the main road. He wore a ragged hemp trouser on his lower body, tied at the ankles, and his exposed flesh was covered in healed scars. His head was full of thick flesh, and his face was pockmarked. He looked like a ruthless person. If he didn't have 100 or so lives on his hands, he'd be somewhat letting down the image his parents gave him. However, the sign in front of this bald man made Chun Xiu ponder for a moment, then frown slightly, and then suddenly laugh. Very good. Chapter 13. It's a spiritual stone. It's just for flowers. 2 spirit stones for 1 month of service. Life and death are one's own responsibility. No regrets. Fei Long, who was standing nearby, stepped forward and quietly explained, "There are many people selling their lives in this area. They usually encounter some difficulties, urgently need money, and have no other way, so they can only come here to sell their lives. But it's hard to distinguish between true and false. Many people take the spirit stones and run, or they just slack off. 2 spirit stones were not a small sum. For a normal mortal family of 3, the total annual income is about 60 taels of silver, which is less than 1 spirit stone. 2 spirit stones are enough for a mortal family to strive for 3 years. But in the cultivation world, 2 spirit stones are not so out of reach. This man's cultivation was at Qi refining stage 6, which was roughly worth this price. Chun Xiu withdrew his gaze from the man in front of him and walked straight ahead along the main road. Whenever they passed through a new area or encountered something new, Fei Long could always explain it clearly to him like a tour guide. He also found that while Fei Long might be a bit timid, his ability to gather intelligence was absolutely not to be underestimated. In less than 5 months of being in this world, he had almost completely understood it. And they quickly sold all the treasures and unused storage pouches they had in Area 7, the trading area. The prices were very transparent. Cultivation techniques and mine cultivation techniques produced in this heavenly Tao secret realm were not difficult to sell, and there would be no tricks with the prices. He kept 1 spirit treasure from that batch for himself and gave 1 to Fei Long. He kept 2 yellow-grade low-rank cultivation techniques and 1 yellow-grade medium-grade mine cultivation technique for himself, and gave Fei Long 2 yellow-grade low-rank cultivation techniques. The remaining items, plus some odds and ends he had plundered from Huang Shikai, were also sold. And there were also some spirit stones in Huang Shikai's storage pouch. The total harvest this time was 50 spirit stones. According to the previous 7-3 split, Chun Xiu kept 35 spirit stones for himself, and put the remaining 15 into a storage pouch and handed it to Fei Long. Just as the two were about to leave the shop, they were stopped. "Please wait, gentlemen." The shopkeeper responsible for receiving goods, with a beaming smile, blocked their path. "Just a friendly reminder. Something big happened in Fufing City today. It is said that a killing-type Heavenly Tao secret realm appeared last night. 100 people entered, and only 2 came out alive. One person's identity is unknown, and the other is reportedly just a vagrant who usually cuts firewood in the mountains for a living." When the secret realm closed, there were many people gathered outside, but these 2, by some unknown means, managed to escape the chaos. Even the young lord of the Huang family in Fufing City died inside. I heard the Huang family is quite furious. They immediately gathered their family members overnight at the Wentian market, waiting for the other party to walk into their trap. After all, any gains from secret realms within a 100-mile radius would definitely have to pass through the Wentian market to be sold. When you walked into this shop, someone was already watching you. Fighting is not allowed within the market, but once you leave the market gate, it's a mass grave. Both of you should be careful. Chun Chiu looked calmly at the smiling shopkeeper in front of him. After a moment of pause, he took out a few taels of silver from his sleeve and placed them on the table. "Thank you, shopkeeper. We shall meet again if fated." He then did not linger, but walked straight out of the shop, completely ignoring the several grim-faced, clearly ill-intentioned strong men standing around the shop, and continued walking forward along the main road. He understood that the Huang family would seek revenge. If his son had died, he would definitely seek revenge too. But Huang Shikai had tried to kill him, and he couldn't just sit there and wait to die. It was just troublesome, so he would figure out a way to send the whole family down to reunite. "Hey!" Fei Long, distracted, looked at Chun Chiu, who was walking quickly ahead, and couldn't help but step forward to stop him, saying anxiously, "I say, Brother Chun Chiu, why do you look so unconcerned? We're being hunted by the Huang family. What are you so shocked about?" Chun Chiu glanced at Fei Long and said casually, "It's like the sky is going to rain, or a mother is going to marry off her daughter. If a son dies, the family comes to seek revenge. Isn't that only natural? Why do you look so surprised? What I mean is, as soon as we leave the Wentian market, we'll be surrounded by the Huang family members. This time they're prepared, so trying to escape with the earth escape technique and obscuring skill probably won't be that simple." Chun Chiu nodded slightly, finally stopping outside a shop in Area 8, the Yao Beast area. "I know what I'm doing. I'll open a room in the inn across from this shop later. You go gather some information about the size of the Huang family's influence and the strength of the people they've sent out this time. As long as we don't leave the market, there's no immediate danger. We'll meet again in an hour." Although Fei Long was a bit uneasy, he felt that Chun Chiu's words made some sense. After nodding hastily, he hurried away from here, looking at Fei Long's back. Chun Chiu said nothing more, but walked straight into the shop in front of him. "Shopkeeper, how much do adult Yao beasts in the Qi refinement stage sell for?" "1 incense stick later." Chun Chiu was already in a guest room at the inn across from the shop, and the shopkeeper of that shop was all smiles, sending in dozens of heavily injured Yao beasts in cages into the guest room. The inn owner also stood by, smiling and busy. Everyone seemed very kind. In principle, the inn owner would not allow guests to kill a large number of creatures in the guest rooms. This was an inn, not a slaughterhouse. But he couldn't resist the guest who paid 5 times the price. After everyone had left, Chun Chiu looked at the dozens of heavily injured Yao beasts in cages in front of him, gasping for breath and baring their fangs, constantly roaring at him. He slowly drew the long blade from his embrace, a spirit treasure he had obtained from the Heavenly Tao secret realm. Yellow grade low rank, named Slaying Heaven. The name was quite imposing. After his cultivation breaks through to the foundation establishment stage, when spiritual qi could flow out of his body, he could infuse spiritual qi into the spirit treasure to unleash its full power. However, with qi refining stage cultivation, holding this weapon only made it a mortal weapon that could cut through iron like mud. But it was definitely much better than his firewood chopping knife. He had spent 32 spirit stones, almost all of his possessions, to purchase this batch of adult Yao beasts. 27 red-eyed wolves, at Qi refining stage 4 and Qi refining stage 5. 4 broken-tailed monkeys at Qi refining stage 6. 3 armored crocodiles at Qi refining stage 7. 1 hedgehog pig at Qi refining stage 8. 32 spirit stones was not a small sum. Most foundation establishment stage cultivators didn't even have that much wealth. Otherwise, the shopkeeper who sold the Yao beasts, a cultivator at the foundation establishment middle stage, wouldn't have greeted him, a small Qi refining stage fellow, with such a beaming smile. And he even gave a free bonus of heavily injured Yao beasts. Spirit stones are meant to be spent. Although if they were all used for cultivation techniques, his cultivation would definitely increase more, the time taken would also be much longer. Compared to spirit stones, he lacked time more. Chapter 14. Pink Entry, Towering Giant. Chapter 14 Pink Word Art. Sky-Piercing Giant. Whoosh! Chan Xiu took a deep breath. Then, holding a sharp blade, he sent off these heavily injured Yao beasts one by one through the gaps in the steel cage, aiming for a single fatal blow. At the same time, when he looked inward, several panels enveloped in mist continuously popped up. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially entering Qi refining stage 4. Please choose from the 3 random word arts below within 10 breaths. The 3 random word arts were all quite ordinary, and in the end, he chose word art name, person of heavenly flaw, word art rank, white, word art effect. When you close your eyes, your other senses will be doubled. If you are born blind, your other senses will be tenfold. If you are acquired blind, your body senses will be quintupled. Humans have 5 senses: hearing, smell, sight, taste, touch. In the absence of vision, the other 4 senses can be tenfold. If this word art were obtained by a naturally blind unfortunate person, it would be no less than obtaining a blue word art. In some ways, it could be considered an exclusive word art. Of course, if one becomes acquired blind, meaning self-inflicted blindness, one can also gain a 5-fold enhancement. However, he only needs a 2-fold enhancement, and although the effect is slightly less, the side effects are minimal. The butcher's knife continued to swing, and his cultivation continued to rise. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially entering Qi refining stage 5. Please choose from the 3 random word arts below within 10 breaths. Ha! Chan Xiu looked at the 3 options on the panel enveloped in mist within his body, a hint of disbelief flashing in his eyes. He seemed to have stumbled upon an excellent word art. 1. Word art name. Attacked from all sides. Word art rank. White. Word art effect. When your abdomen is attacked, your back is injured. When your back is attacked, your abdomen is injured. 2. Word art name. 7-foot man. Word art rank. White. Word art effect. When your height exceeds 7 feet, your physical strength increases by a trace for every additional centimeter. 3. Word art name. Unknown. Word art rank. Unknown. Word art effect. This word art is the only unknown word art. Its true form will only be revealed after confirmation, and this word art cannot be discarded by any means. The 7-foot man talent was actually somewhat useful to him, suitable for body tempering. 7 feet in this world is roughly equivalent to 1.7 meters in his previous life, and 1 foot equals 10 inches. He isn't very tall, 1.78 meters, but he could still gain a fair bit of enhancement. But that's all. The effect was very limited. He chose the 3rd word art with almost no hesitation. No matter what rank or effect the 3rd word art had, the words unique word art placed there made him believe it wouldn't be weak. Soon, another panel enveloped in mist appeared within his body. Word art name. Dan Tian expansion. Unique. Word art rank. Pink. Word art effect. For every Yao beast you kill, your Dao foundation will expand by 1 centimeter overall, with no upper limit. Looking at the effect of this word art, Chan Xiu couldn't help but slightly open his mouth, the shock in his eyes hard to hide. Was this word art effect a bit too strong? The Dantian is where spiritual qi is stored. In the future, foundation establishment is about building a high platform on the Dantian, just like building a house. Normally, a cultivator in the foundation establishment stage would have a Dao foundation that is only about 100 centimeters wide and 100 centimeters high. 1 inch equals 100 centimeters. The width determines how much spiritual qi your Dantian can store. The wider the Dao foundation, the more spiritual qi your Dantian can store. In other words, you have a large amount of spiritual qi to continuously release Dao arts and various spells. And the height of the Dao foundation determines the density of spiritual qi in your Dantian. The shorter the Dao foundation, the more intensely the spiritual qi is compressed. And the denser the spiritual qi, the stronger the power that can erupt after activating a spell. Many sect disciples and wealthy families. Often, during the qi refining great perfection, they would prepare a large amount of heaven and earth treasure for their foundation establishment, thereby ensuring they could build a perfect high platform and lay a perfect foundation for their cultivation path. And the Dantian expansion word art means that if he kills only 100 Yao beasts, the width of his future Dao foundation will be twice that of others. If he kills 1,000 Yao beasts, the width of his Dao foundation will be 10 times that of others. If he kills millions of Yao beasts, then the spiritual qi within him will be almost endless, never running out. As long as he is willing, he can even become a spell machine gun. When an enemy merely activates one fireball spell, he can casually wave his hand and unleash thousands of fireballs. And the spiritual qi consumed would be less than 1,000th of his Dantian. Although the power is ordinary, the sheer quantity is overwhelming. Awesome! Chun Chiu took a deep breath, giving this word art the most pertinent evaluation. The unfortunate thing is that this is a word art that only takes effect after the foundation establishment stage. Before foundation establishment, the spiritual qi in the body is not sealed. It flows freely within the body. Only after foundation establishment, when all the spiritual qi is sealed within the Dantian, can this word art perfectly unleash its power. Then, he looked at the remaining Yao beasts with eyes full of drive. With several swift slashes, soon, the panel enveloped in mist once again appeared above his Dantian. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially entering Qi Refining Stage 6. Please choose from the 3 random word arts below within 10 breaths. 1. Word art name: Sky-Piercing Giant. Word art rank: Pink. Word artifact: for every Yao beast killed, height increases by 1 centimeter. 2. Word art name: Under the Stage. Word art rank: White. Word artifact: when you are in a crowd, your presence is greatly reduced. 3. Word art name: Spiritual Pressure. Word art rank: White. Word artifact: after your Dao foundation width exceeds 100 centimeters, your spell power will increase by a trace for every additional centimeter. What a pity! Chun Chiu sat dazed on the bed in the guest room. The most painful thing in this world is having to choose between 2 indecisive options. If there's anything more painful, it's having a great opportunity right before your eyes and missing it. When he break through to Qi Refining Stage 5, there was a white word art. 7-foot man, the taller one, is the stronger one's physical body. It was an ordinary white word art that he hadn't paid much attention to, but if he had chosen that white word art then, he could now choose the pink word art Sky-Piercing Giant. For every Yao beast killed, his height would increase by 1 centimeter. He dared not imagine a top-tier body-tempering word art set. He dared not imagine that after slaughtering millions of vicious beasts, he might become like Quafu, with his head touching the sky and his feet on the ground. It's a pity who would have thought that he would later randomly get the pink word art, Sky-Piercing Giant. After a long sigh, he still chose the 3rd white word art, Spiritual Pressure. He might gamble that he could draw the Spiritual Pressure word art again in the future, but it was too risky. Although this word art is only a white word art, when combined with Dantian Expansion, it can make him an extremely violent spell machine gun. Not only is the casting frequency terrifying, but the power is also terrifyingly high. He no longer doubted whether he could make a name for himself in the immortal realm in the future. The only problem he needed to consider was that all these word arts were late-stage word arts, and he had to work hard to survive. At least he had to foundation establishment as soon as possible. New book sailing. Audience lords who feel this book is still somewhat interesting, you can cast some monthly votes. Woo-woo. Thank you. Chapter 15. Are you fucking cheating? After he raised his hand, dropped his knife, and killed all the remaining Yao beasts, his cultivation barely managed to break through to Qi refining stage 7, 32 spirit stones. For ordinary mortals, this was an amount of money they couldn't earn even in several lifetimes, yet Chen Qiu squandered it all within a few breaths. This wealth was truly vast, enough to make countless people risk their lives for it. But when spent, it didn't last long. Just like that secret realm. Many cultivators at Qi refining 3rd level even entered. When they stepped into this secret realm, they must have thought that there would be Qi refining stage 6 existences within, and they must have also thought that there might be some young masters from large families. They even considered that they might very well die in this small world. But they still resolutely stepped into the entrance of the small world. Perhaps they felt their luck would be good enough. Or perhaps a rare heavenly Tao secret realm suddenly appeared near them, and they felt they would regret it if they missed it. No matter the reason, it no longer mattered. The final destination for all these people was death within the secret realm. But none of this concerned Chen Qiu. At this moment, Chen Qiu was sitting cross-legged on the bed, his eyes tightly closed and his hands spread flat across his chest. This realm breakthrough was vastly different from before. He could clearly feel a warm current, continuously flowing along the meridians within his body. He didn't know how much time had passed. When he opened his eyes again, he only felt a foul stench emanating from his body. Looking down, he saw a lot of black sludge had been expelled from his body and was now stuck to the inside of his clothes. He frowned slightly, quickly got up, and walked to the private bath in the guest room. He removed his clothes and carefully washed himself. When he finished washing and stepped out of the bath, he stood before the bronze mirror in the guest room and looked at himself in the mirror. A slight shock flashed in his eyes. His body hadn't changed at all, but for some reason, he just felt that his aura was a bit different. If one had to find a specific difference, it was that his back was a bit straighter. At this moment, he felt that he could easily defeat 2 Qi refining stage 6 cultivators with just his physical strength, which was probably what Fei Long meant about the watershed of Qi refining stage 6. As long as one breakthroughs to Qi refining stage 6, their physical strength can be greatly enhanced. Gradually, they become completely distinct from mortals. Just then, he suddenly had a feeling and looked inward at his body. Sure enough, that extremely familiar panel, enveloped in mist, quietly reappeared above his dantian. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially entering Qi refining stage 7. Please select from the 3 random word arts below within 10 breaths. 1. Word art name. Self-destruct entry. Word art rank. White. Word artifact. You can self-destruct any word art to unleash a full power strike 1 realm higher than your current cultivation. 2. Word art name. Still shaken. Word art rank. White. Word artifact. When you are in a state of fear, your 5 senses will be slightly enhanced. 3. Word art name. In groups. Word art rank. Green. Word artifact. The extra organs on your body will mutate, possessing unpredictable power. The specific power depends on the number of extra organs. Perhaps his good luck had been used up in the previous few times. This promotion's luck was rather ordinary, with only 2 white word arts and 1 green word art. According to Fei Long, the word arts randomly obtained upon a Qi refining breakthrough are mostly white word arts, with a small probability of being green word arts or higher. This time was the normal situation. It was just that the previous abnormal occurrences were too many. He had become somewhat accustomed to that abnormality. Without much thought, he chose the first word art. Compared to the other 2 word arts, only this self-destruct entry had a stronger effect on him. Although he currently had no word arts he didn't need, he could obtain 1 word art with each realm promotion. In the future, there would definitely be times when all 3 random word arts obtained from a promotion were useless. In such a situation, it wouldn't be completely useless anymore. It's just that, can this self-destruct entry self-destruct itself? Also, he had a previous word art that could absolutely not be removed. Can self-destruct entry self-destruct that word art? Although he was somewhat curious, he couldn't conduct this experiment just to satisfy his curiosity. Who? Chun Xiu, standing naked in front of the bronze mirror, swung the long knife in his hand. After feeling the explosive power that could be activated at any time, he felt a certain sense of security, and even a desire to find someone to practice with. Then he looked at the 4 storage pouches piled next to his clothes and fell silent. He had acquired many storage pouches in the small world. Most of them he sold, keeping only 4 for himself. These storage pouches contained many things: dry rations, spirit stones, and silver. The only thing missing was a change of clothes. Fortunately, he wasn't troubled for too long. A knock on the door soon came from outside the guest room, along with Fei Long's slightly hurried voice. "Brother Chen Xiu, open the door quickly. Something big has happened." 3 breaths later, Fei Long pushed the door open, and Chen Xiu stood in place, using the knife blade to shield his vital areas. He raised his hand to interrupt. "First, go buy me a set of clothes. No matter how big the matter is, I'm not in the mood to listen right now." Fei Long was a bit bewildered for a moment, then casually pulled out a clean set of clothes from his embrace and handed them to Chen Xiu. "I have a clean set of clothes here that I usually change into. You can wear them for now, though they might be a bit big. But it's fine later." Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly smelled the strong scent of blood in the guest room. His eyes swept to the side, to the cage almost filling half the guest room with Yao beast corpses, and to the pile of clothes on the bed permeated with black sludge. His mouth slowly widened, and he stammered incredulously. "Brother Chen Xiu, you didn't break through to Qi refining stage 7, did you?" No way. You really reached Qi refining stage 7. Why you?" Although Chen Xiu hadn't replied yet, Fei Long was extremely familiar with what happens when one breakthroughs to Qi refining stage 7. The most obvious thing is that after breakthroughing to Qi refining stage 7, one's body undergoes a complete transformation. Although it won't prolong life, it will greatly enhance a person's physical qualities. Could be said that after breakthroughing to Qi refining stage 7, one is already considered to have left mortals behind. Fei Long, standing in place at this moment, was filled with disbelief and unwillingness. Why him? He had been in this world for 5 months, doing all sorts of deceptive and fraudulent things. Besides not risking his life, he had done everything he could. Despite all that effort, he had only cultivated to Qi refining stage 6. And yesterday he met Chen Xiu for the first time. At that time, Chen Xiu wasn't even at Qi refining 1st level. He break through to Qi refining 3rd level in the small world, and while he was out gathering information, he came back to find Chen Xiu at Qi refining stage 7. "Are you cheating?" Chapter 16. "Isn't she a geisha?" Chen Xiu nodded. While Fei Long was standing there in a daze, he changed his clothes, tightened his waist with a cloth strip to make the clothes fit better, and then casually said, "I've basically spent all my spirit stones. Only 3 are left. If you had spent all your spirit stones, you might have been able to break through to Qi refining stage 8. What's there to be surprised about? That's over 30 spirit stones." Fei Long couldn't help but feel a pang of pain. "Brother Chen Xiu, didn't you have a mental struggle before spending them? You spent them so decisively? You should have hesitated for a while." Hesitate? After tidying his clothes, Chen Xiu walked to the red table, poured himself a cup of herbal tea, and gulped it down. Still not satisfied, he directly put the teapot spout to his mouth and drank the entire pot of herbal tea. Only then did he wipe his mouth contentedly and place the teapot aside. "The Huang family has already sent people to block the city gate. If I hesitated at this time, was I planning to let the spirit stones be buried with me? Never mind that, you just said something big happened. What is it? Who?" Speaking of this matter, Fei Long took a deep breath and also sat at the red table. After dipping his finger in the tea water from the teapot, he wrote on the table, "The Huang family is a relatively well-known force in Fufeng City. Their family business is the surrounding mining industry. The family head is a Foundation Establishment Stage 6 cultivator. This time, the one sent to seek revenge is the Huang family's 7th elder leading the team, with a cultivation of Qi refining stage 8, bringing 6 or 7 thugs around Qi refining stage 5 or 6. They grandly announced that they would kill us to avenge the Huang family young master. But according to the inside information I obtained, this Qi refining stage 8 7th elder will not immediately strike us down. The Huang family's main goal this time is to use us to eliminate these 6 or 7 thugs from the Huang family. These thugs all joined the Huang family many years ago, but their monthly wages were all used to support their families, and they adamantly refused to spend any on cultivation. After so many years, their strength hasn't improved, and they have gradually grown old. Their physical condition is much worse than before, and their combat power has declined significantly compared to their youth. This leads to the Huang family giving this group of people the monthly wages only available to Qi refining stage 6 cultivation. Yet this group cannot provide the Huang family with the strength expected of Qi refining stage 6. However, it's not good to directly expel them, as these people have devoted almost half their lives to the Huang family. If all of them were expelled, it would discourage many people below. So, the Huang family plans to take this opportunity to let this group of people all die by our hands, and then the 7th elder will return with our heads. The Huang family does not have severance pay. Fei Long took another deep breath before continuing. At the same time, I also learned a shocking secret. The Huang family actually doesn't want to seek revenge, because the Huang family is at a crucial moment. One of the Huang family's minds has a great opportunity about to appear. It's said to be a random, heavenly Tao talent. And a big reason why the Huang family insists on seeking revenge is that if the Huang family remains inactive, it will easily arouse suspicion. So, they had no choice but to come to Intian Market, bringing the weakest batch of thugs from the Huang family, serving a dual purpose. Besides that, the Huang family sending people here has another purpose. Tian Market is the largest market within a 100-mile radius around here, and also the strongest force near Fufeng City. By seeking revenge, they hire many people to monitor the city gate to discern whether Tian Market knows this news. After all, the head of Tian Market is at the Golden Core stage. If this person wants this heavenly Tao talent, then the Huang family can only hand it over. But Fei Long paused, his expression serious. In fact, many forces have already secretly received the news and have sent people to Fufeng City. Do you remember the opera troupe that came from the capital and entered the city last night? It's that geisha from the capital whom a big shot offered 3 spirit stones. But she wouldn't sell herself. This geisha is from the Xianhua sect. That day, a large number of people gathered at the east gate of Fufeng City, and the scene was extremely chaotic. Even the Huang family didn't realize that many people had secretly entered Fufeng City, and the reason why that heavenly Tao secret realm suddenly opened near Fufeng City last night was not a coincidence, but rather a response to the heavenly Tao talent. Brother Chun Chiu, do you understand? Soon, perhaps even today, there will be a big battle in Fufeng City, and it seems we've been dragged into it. Chun Chiu, sitting at the red table, went from being bewildered at first to silently maintaining a blank expression. After Fei Long finished speaking, he paused for a moment before quietly asking, Brother Fei Long, tell me seriously, can this information be obtained from a tavern or a tea house? He knew Fei Long was good at gathering information, but he didn't expect his information-gathering ability to be comparable to the embroidered uniform guard. Of course not. Fei Long shook his head. I used various methods, including going to the World Pavilion shop, which specializes in selling information, to buy intelligence. Then, I observed which forces people came to World Pavilion to buy information, and where these people went afterward, as well as rumors about Fufeng City in the market and how these days differ from before and so on. This information is a compilation of all these methods. The accuracy rate is 80%. Did you spend spirit stones? Chun Chiu nodded knowingly. Yes. How much? All of it. Chun Chiu fell silent again, his mouth twitching slightly. Didn't you have 15 spirit stones in your pocket? Didn't you just ask me why I spent them so decisively? saying I should at least hesitate? It seems you didn't hesitate much either. Nonsense, Fei Long said with a grim expression. The Huang family has already blocked the city gate. If I hesitated at this time, was I going to let the spirit stones be buried with myself? Very good. Chun Xiu nodded, and after a moment of contemplation, he softly said, This is good news for us. At least it can give us a period of calm. What he needed most now was a period of calm. As long as he was given time to cultivate to the foundation establishment stage and learn a few spells, destroying the Huang family would be a blink of an eye. But Heavenly Tao didn't seem to intend to grant his wish. Bang, bang, bang. After 2 crisp knocks on the door, accompanied by a loud crash, the door was directly kicked open. A tall woman in a rouge dress, holding a round fan and wearing a red veil, walked into the room with 2 burly men. Fei Long, who was about to get up and open the door, froze in place. You are the outer elder of the Zhatian gang, right? The woman casually fanned herself with the round fan, looking at Fei Long, who was frozen in place, with a hint of playfulness in her eyes, and let out a series of bell-like laughter. Meeting again, you've become an elder. I wonder if your sect is still recruiting. Can I join? Fei Long was silent for a long while before turning his head to Chun Xiu. This is the geisha from the capital's opera troupe I just told you about. You two know each other? Yes, I patronized her last time. Isn't she a geisha? She's lying to sell at a high price. The rumor that a certain big shot from the capital offered 3 spirit stones, but she wouldn't sell herself, was also an idea I helped her come up with back then. Chapter 17. Create your own skills and follow the sun in Kowloon. He's lying to you. The woman in the long rouge dress gently waved her round fan, and the 2 burly men behind her walked out the door, standing like door gods on either side of the guest room entrance. Immediately after, a light blue energy barrier suddenly appeared out of thin air. It was neither too big nor too small, enveloping the entire guest room and isolating the 2 burly men outside. It was clearly a sound-insulating cultivation technique. Since he mentioned me to you, he must have also told you that I am the walking heavenly woman of the Xianhua sect, right? The Xianhua sect's main cultivation technique is dual cultivation. Yes, it's exactly as you imagine. A life of debauchery, beautiful women everywhere, a veritable wine pool and meat forest. The daily cultivation method involves constant intimate acts. His physique is special. He was captured by the Xianhua sect and used as a supplement for 3 months, so he shouldn't just know me. He should be very familiar with me. After all, I favored him the most. Chun Xiu expressionlessly turned his head to look at Fei Long, not speaking, just sitting quietly on the chair. He was assessing the situation. Things were a bit chaotic right now, so it was best to remain silent for the time being. Why are you looking at me? Since he had already been exposed, Fei Long said loudly, somewhat out of vexation. Chun Xiu, please think about it seriously. For someone like me, with no background and unfortunately having the word art 9 oxen strength, isn't it perfectly reasonable to be captured by such a dual cultivation sect and used as a supplement? You tell me, is there a problem with this logic? What could I do? I thought about resisting, but that sect had experts everywhere. Who could I possibly defeat? I didn't want to die, so what could I do? It was so hard to escape after 3 months. And who knew I'd encounter her here again? This woman was the walking heavenly woman of the Xianhua sect at the time. She usually didn't stay in the sect. After learning that the sect had found me this anomaly supplement, she specifically rushed back to the sect and tormented me more than a dozen times. Finally, I offered her a plan. I helped her earn more spirit stones, and that's how I got the chance to escape from the Xianhua sect. Chun Xiu nodded understandingly. It made sense. If he were in power in the Xianhua sect, he would definitely capture Fei Long and use him as a supplement. It's just... He frowned slightly and pondered for a moment before looking at the woman in front of him and softly saying, Miss, although I don't fully understand dual cultivation, I have heard a little about it. Your realm should be much higher than my brother's, right? Is dual cultivation useful? It's clear you don't understand dual cultivation. The woman shook her head, letting out a peal of silver bell-like laughter, covering her mouth with her fan. Dual cultivation is not a cultivation technique. It's a mind cultivation technique. But you're right about one thing. If the cultivation difference is too great, it's indeed useless. Since it's useless, then although it's useless, it feels good. Chun Xiu fell silent again, remaining in place for a long time before lightly tapping the table with his index finger. We're all clear-headed people, so let's speak plainly. Why did you proactively seek out my brother today? Do you want to take him back to be a supplement again? Not at all. The young lady shook her head again, her smile fading as she became slightly more serious. Although this boy is a bit unconventional, he has shown me kindness. I am here only to tell him to leave this place quickly. Although I don't know why he came to Fufeng City, hundreds of miles away, after escaping from the Xianhua sect. But one thing is very important. Fufeng City will soon experience a brutal conflict between several forces, and countless ordinary people will be affected. When Tian Market is also not safe, it's best to escape as soon as possible. I cannot tell you the specific reasons. The advice has been delivered. Finally, the young lady suddenly burst into coquettish laughter again, covering her mouth with her fan and looking at Fei Long with a charming and provocative gaze. Her eyes sparkling and full of reluctance as she softly said, "The next time we meet, I'd like to taste that 9-dragon chasing the sun move you created last time. It's very unique, something I've never seen before. You must survive, okay?" As her words fell, the energy barrier dissipated. The young lady turned and walked out of the guest room, and the burly men standing on either side of the guest room door quickly followed her. The innkeeper was already standing at the door, nodding and bowing in farewell, apparently having received a substantial compensation. After this unexpected woman left, the harmonious atmosphere that had been in the room suddenly began to turn strange. Chun Xiu remained silent for a long time before being the first to break the atmosphere. "So, the reason you were so weak when we met yesterday was because you were tormented by the Xianhua sect for 3 months? It wasn't because cultivators at Qi Refining Stage 6 are just inherently that weak?" "Yes." Fei Long nodded, somewhat indignantly. "Phew, no wonder." Chun Xiu nodded in understanding. Initially, Fei Long had told him that all cultivators at Qi Refining Stage 6 were that weak, and only by breaking through to Qi Refining Stage 7 would their physical condition greatly improve. But whether it was the few cultivators at Qi Refining Stage 6 he encountered in the secret realm last night, or when he himself had just broken through to Qi Refining Stage 6, he didn't feel as weak as Fei Long. He had been somewhat puzzled before, but now it made sense. "May I venture to ask again, what kind of cultivation technique is 9-dragon chasing the sun?" "Hey, you're even more presumptuous than last time," Fei Long said, somewhat out of vexation. "Don't ask any more. This experience is my shame. When I was captured by the Xianhua sect, how many people did I ask for help along the way? Did anyone help me? There were thousands of supplements in the Xianhua sect, and every so often a batch of drain supplements would be eliminated. What could I do to avoid being drained and eliminated? I had to rack my brains to develop a series of cultivation techniques to make those demonesses addicted when they favored me. This way they would want to favor me again, and because they were reluctant to let me go, they would control the intensity of the cultivation technique and not drain me dry. I'm telling you, Chun Xiu, I will never forget this memory in this life. When I gain power one day, none of those who insulted me in the Xianhua sect will escape. I will slice them into 1,000 pieces. Why do you think I changed my name to Fei Long? Every moment, I tell myself that all the humiliation I face is a necessary factor on the path to success. Those who are certain they will reach the peak in the future will never feel ashamed of kneeling yesterday. This name is to tell the world, to tell myself. I, Fei Long, am a damn dragon in slumber. One day, I will definitely part these clouds, and like a dragon emerging from the sea, I will show the world what a true overlord is. At this moment, Fei Long's neck veins bulged, his entire face was flushed, and his voice was resounding, filled with intense anger and unwillingness. At this moment, Chun Xiu was slightly stunned. He seemed to see in Fei Long the image of someone who silently endured and bore setbacks and difficulties for the sake of his ambitions. Fei Long did not seem to be as afraid of death as he had imagined. Instead, he was unwilling to die without value. In a trance, he murmured, "If that's the case, why call yourself Fei Long, and not Flood Dragon or Tyrant Dragon? That sounds too arrogant." Fei Long's tone suddenly softened again, and he mumbled softly, "I'm afraid someone will hear me call myself that name, dislike me, and just kill me easily. I'm a little afraid of death. Aren't you?" Chapter 18. To find wealth in danger, you have to take a gamble. Chun Xiu suddenly fell silent again. He felt that these two sentences sounded familiar, as if he had heard the exact same thing last night. After sorting out his thoughts, he shook his head and said, "Since you knew she would enter the city last night, why were you recruiting disciples under the Jia Tiangang banner at Fufing City's East Gate last night? How would I know it was her?" Fei Long scratched his head, annoyed. "I just received news early that a troop from the capital was going to Fufing City. People here usually don't have much entertainment, so they definitely watch any excitement. I rushed to Fufing City yesterday morning, planning to recruit disciples while many people were gathered at the city gate. I was sure to get a good haul. Only when I arrived in the morning did I realize it was actually her. At that time I wanted to run, but I was a bit reluctant to give up this opportunity. I thought since I'm already here with so many people, she probably wouldn't notice me. Who would have thought that as soon as she entered the city, she looked in my direction? My heart skipped a beat, and I could only turn around, quickly find someone, and run over to give her a glimpse of my back. That person was you. I originally just wanted to casually chat with you for a few sentences, as long as she entered the city and couldn't see my face. Who knew after only a few sentences, I discovered you also transmigrated. You know what happened after that?" Chun Xiu's mouth twitched slightly. He raised his hand to pour himself a cup of tea, but found the teapot empty at some point. He could only stop his action and rubbed his nose. Now it seemed, this girl was half his benefactor. If it weren't for this girl, Fei Long wouldn't have stopped him. He wouldn't have known about Heavenly Dao talents. He wouldn't have entered the Heavenly Dao secret realm, and he wouldn't have had the opportunities that followed. No. Pushing further back, this girl came because of the Huang family's Heavenly Dao talent appearing. If there was no Huang family, neither this girl nor Fei Long would have come to Fufing City, meaning the Huang family was also half his benefactor. And the young lord of the Huang family seemed to have already died by his hand. Would killing a benefactor bring down heavenly retribution? He shook his head, no longer thinking about these things, but brought the matter to the crucial point. "What is this Heavenly Dao talent?" "It's a type of special word art," Fei Long said with a serious expression, his voice deep. "As I mentioned before, besides rank word art like white and green, there are many types of special word art such as gray word art, bloodline word art, and Heavenly Dao talent. Heavenly Dao talents are random. Some are very strong, and some are very weak, but they all have one thing in common. Heavenly Dao talents can be inherited. It can be directly passed down to your direct descendants. This alone is enough. It's enough to make countless forces rush to snatch a Heavenly Dao talent once it appears. As long as they get it and ensure the family can pass it down, then as time goes on, the family's foundation will become stronger and stronger. The Great Xia Kingdom has not changed dynasties for nearly 1,000 years. A long time ago, the current Great Xia royal family was just a small Xia family. Why has it prospered for so long? There are naturally many reasons, but one of them is that the ancestors of the Great Xia Kingdom collectively obtained 11 Heavenly Dao talents. All direct bloodline descendants born into the Xia family carry 11 word art from birth. Currently, on the Great Xia Tianjiao ranking, the Xia family accounts for 37 of the top 100. It's truly a Xia family strict selection. Oh! Chun Xiu's eyes instantly narrowed slightly, as soon as Fei Long said that he knew many people would die this time. The effect of this Heavenly Dao talent was truly a bit abnormal. Since so many forces already know about this Heavenly Dao talent, can the Great Xia royal family not know? Can they not send people? They won't. Fei Long shook his head. A Heavenly Dao talent is both a legacy and a curse. No matter what word art is randomly acquired, it will definitely be passed down to your descendants, and a small portion of word art has relatively severe negative effects. One more heavenly Tao talent for the great Xia royal family won't significantly strengthen their descendants' foundation, as they already have 11. But if they randomly get a heavenly Tao talent with a very strong negative effect, then it's purely not worth the gain. They won't win much, but they lose a lot if they lose. No one will sit at such a gambling table. Some large families either had their ancestors already win the gamble and already have several heavenly Tao talents and don't need to gamble anymore, or their current development is good enough that they don't need to gamble. Large families aren't very interested in this. But for a small family like the Huang family, it's a fatal attraction. And the royal family won't send people to snatch this heavenly Tao talent and then exchange it for spirit stones. That would be too low class. If Great Xia did that, do you think these sects would still stay within Great Xia? The world is vast. There's always a place for a man. Sects and nations are interdependent, not superior-subordinate relationships. How many spirit stones is one heavenly Tao talent worth? This thing is basically never sold, and there's no specific market price. It's at least 1,000 spirit stones, I guess. Of course, this price is my guess. I'm not sure of the exact amount. It should only be higher, not lower. After all, it's a heavenly Tao talent. Chan Xiu nodded. He had understood the situation. What is that girl's cultivation? Foundation Establishment Stage 1. Doesn't sound very high. It's absolutely enough to strangle both of us. You're too afraid of death. Nonsense, aren't you? Let's go. Chun Xiu stopped talking, stood up, and walked straight out of the guest room. After reaching the first floor, he casually took 2 spirit stones from the shopkeeper and then walked along the main road towards the city gate. This was something he and the shopkeeper had discussed beforehand. The Yao beast corpses in the guest room, whether their fur or flesh, were valuable goods. Together, they could easily sell for 5 or 6 spirit stones. He didn't have time to deal with them, so he sold them to the shopkeeper for 2 spirit stones. The shopkeeper earned spirit stones, and he saved time. Are you really going to wade into this muddy water in Fufing City? Are you crazy? Even if you are at Qi Refining Stage 7, there are many Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators going this time, which is completely insufficient. Isn't this just sending yourself to death? On the main road of Area 4 in Wentian Market, Fei Long, who was following behind Chun Xiu, urgently advised, Brother Chun Xiu, don't think that Foundation Establishment Stage is only one realm higher than Qi Refining Stage, but in reality, it's a world of difference. Going like this, it's really no different from sending ourselves to death. Chun Xiu walked calmly at the very front and said softly, You've seen what kind of world this is. If I don't strengthen my strength at all costs, what if I get caught by Xianhua sect as a tonic like you in the future? With such an opportunity in front of me, how could I miss it? Absolutely impossible. You're not strong, you don't have 9 bulls, and your cultivation isn't high. They won't fancy a tonic like you. You told me yesterday that if I don't get stronger, even someone like you could easily strangle me. But I can't beat you now. That won't do either. Chun Xiu walked to the city gate of Wentian Market, stopped in place, and looked at a few men outside the city gate who seemed surprised to see him. He said softly, If I get these 1,000 spirit stones, I can take you to Xianhua sect tomorrow and kill those who once humiliated you. Fortune favors the bold, you have to take a gamble. But life is also lost in danger, so let's not gamble if we don't have to. Don't worry. Chun Xiu patted Fei Long's shoulder, paused for a moment, then chuckled. Clouds won't disperse on their own. You have to part them yourself. To become a dragon emerging from the sea and gaining fame in the heavens, you always have to fight for it. I have a way. I'll win. Chapter 19. If you can win, fight. If you can't, you will die. Perhaps it was being influenced by Chun Xiu's confidence, or perhaps he recalled his own bold words from earlier and didn't want to show weakness. But in any case, Fei Long's expression changed several times between cloudy and clear before he finally nodded with difficulty. All right, let's gamble. He rarely went all in his life. Countless fellow entrepreneurs who failed in his previous life taught him a truth. Whether a company can survive long enough is not determined by how much profit a project makes. What truly determines it is how much the company will lose if the project fails. He never thought of making his company big. He only wanted his company to survive longer. Compared to the profit target, he spent more time considering the stop-loss point in his life. Only by living long enough would a miracle arrive. Whether in his previous life or here. Chun-Shou nodded and smiled, then walked straight out of the city gate. The men outside the city gate who looked at him with some surprise were the people sent by the Huang family. Now, seeing him step out of the city gate, they all tore open their black robes, pulled long knives from their bosoms, and surrounded Chun-Shou and Fei Long, their eyes like hungry wolves, staring intently at them, cutting off their path to escape back to Intian Market. These thugs looked quite old. Some even had age spots on the backs of their hands, but their aura was not weak at all. Huang family doing business. Idlers, step aside. Please make way. An old man with his hands clasped behind his back, wearing a Huang family uniform robe, walked out of the crowd with a grim expression, standing in front of Chun-Shou and the others. After a long silence, he said with a half-smile, "You killed my Huang family young master and are still so ostentatious, not even wearing a cloak. Bold. Do you really think my Huang family has no temper?" Soon, another 3 or 4 Huang family thugs arrived, tearing open their black robes and holding long knives, joining the encirclement. They stared intently at Chun-Shou and the others, ready to strike and kill the two at any command. These people should be the Huang family 7th elder, an 8th-level Qi refinement stage cultivator, and the thugs the Huang family was preparing to deal with, as per Fei Long's intelligence. The surrounding people seemed accustomed to this, dispersing to both sides without any surprise. As long as the fighting wasn't within Intian Market, no one would care even if the sky fell outside. What's the plan? Fei Long glanced at the Huang family thugs holding long knives surrounding them. He leaned closer to Chun-Shou, constantly surveying their surroundings and lowering his voice. "Whatever the plan is, it's time to tell me." He probably already guessed Chun-Shou's plan. Just like last time, using the Earth Escape technique and obscuring skill to escape from here. However, both of these cultivation techniques require the situation to be chaotic enough to fish in troubled waters. So, he must be thinking of a way to create chaos, such as scattering a few spirit stones on the ground to draw in the onlookers. The temptation of a few spirit stones is not small, and many people would likely be unable to resist it. When the Heavenly Dao talent melee breaks out in Fufeng City, Brother Chun-Shou probably also intends to use these 2 cultivation techniques to snatch chestnuts from the fire. Although the risk is higher, if successful, the reward is also astonishing. Just as he was ready to cooperate with Chun-Shou, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Fei Long subconsciously turned his head, only to see a resentful spirit floating in midair behind him, carrying death qi, which made him shiver. The appearance of this resentful spirit was extremely familiar. It was none other than Huang Shikai, the Huang family young master who died in the secret realm last night. Fei Long couldn't help but slowly open his mouth, staring at this scene with a mix of bewilderment and disbelief. He found it hard to imagine that Chun-Shou's plan wouldn't be to just charge out like this. Is he crazy? Is this even called a plan? Fight if you can, die if you can't, right? Then, the next moment, kill! Chun-Shou roared, suddenly pulling out his yellow-grade low-rank spirit treasure, the Heaven Slayer long knife, from his bosom. He grabbed Huang Shikai by the collar and charged forward. At the same time, the Huang family 7th elder also roared kill, with an extremely grim expression. He naturally recognized that the resentful spirit in Chun-Shou's hand was their Huang family young master. Originally, 100 people entered the secret realm last night, and only 2 came out alive. They didn't know who killed the young lord, so they could only vent all their resentment on these 2 who came out alive. He just didn't expect that the young lord was indeed killed by these 2 beasts. The order was given and the knives were drawn. The Huang family thugs surrounding Chun-Shou and Fei Long shouted in unison with firm and cold expressions, showing no mercy. They all chopped towards Chun-Shou. Although they were old and their condition had declined somewhat, their years of combat experience were not lacking at all. They were most experienced in ganging up on others. However, clang! Several sounds like chopping on steel suddenly rang out. It worked as expected. Chun Qiu's lips curved into a smile. With his left hand gripping Huang Shikai's collar and his right hand tightly holding the knife hilt, he charged into the crowd and began to slaughter. He didn't know any knife techniques, but he knew that a knife blade to the neck would kill someone. Huang Shikai's word artifact was the yellow word art, immune to flanking attacks, which meant attacks from behind and the sides of his body would be completely nullified. While alive, this word art wasn't very useful, as its drawbacks were quite significant. But after dying and transforming into a resentful spirit, this word art became extremely useful, like a shield with absolute defense. Especially since a resentful spirit is a divine soul existence. It has almost no weight and doesn't affect movement at all when held. In virtually no time, these 6 or 7 Huang family thugs, who were at Qi refining stage 5 or 6, fell into pools of blood without any power to retaliate. The gap between Qi refining stage 6 and Qi refining stage 7, while not as vast as heaven and earth, was still significant. With a realm advantage and a large shield providing absolute defense, killing them was effortless. Before Fei Long could react, Chun Qiu was already holding Huang Shikai in his left hand and wielding his long knife in his right, charging towards the Huang family's 7th elder at the very back. Come! At this moment, Chun Qiu was somewhat bloodthirsty, and the fierce aura he carried made the onlookers unconsciously step back a few paces. A few breaths later, Fei Long looked at Chun Qiu's back with a bewildered expression. He hadn't even had time to grab his knife and join the battle when he saw Chun Qiu already dismembering the Huang family's 7th elder's corpse. Arms, legs, head. He dismembered the body with the ease of a master butcher, then skillfully rummaged through Elder Huang's robe. After a while, he pulled out 3 storage pouches, contentedly stuffed them into his bosom, and then ran to the other thugs, similarly rummaging through their clothes for a long time before turning to look at him. Did you come to watch the show? Should I sing you another song? Is it that simple and brutal? Otherwise, Chun Qiu nodded, rolled his eyes at Fei Long irritably, and patted his now bulging money pouch with satisfaction. He casually pulled out a few taels of silver and threw them into the hand of the guard captain at the Wentian Market City gate. Brothers, you'll have to clean up this mess later. A small tea fee. Chapter 20. The world is so big that even 3 breaths can be taken away. Subsequently, Chun Qiu did not delay in the slightest. He grabbed Huang Shikai's collar with his left hand and strode towards the cliff edge where they had arrived. The wraith he summoned could only exist for 1 hour, after which it would automatically dissipate. There was no pausing in between. Huang Shikai's immune to attacks from front and back word art was even more effective than he had imagined. He had to maximize Huang Shikai's remaining usefulness within the time limit. Brother Chun Qiu. Fei Long, having recovered, hurriedly followed Chun Qiu's steps and said urgently, "By publicly summoning Huang Shikai's wraith like this, everyone will know that you possess the ability to turn dead creatures into wraiths and summon them. With so many people watching here, it won't be long before this news definitely leaks out. Your trump card will be gone. Can a trump card that everyone knows about still be a trump card?" Chun Qiu strode towards the cliff edge where they had arrived, his pace quickening slightly. Who said this was a trump card? Quicken your pace. Time waits for no one. Heh! The guard commander, clad in armor, standing at the main city gate, Seek Immortal Gate, on the west city wall of Wentian Market, looked at the receding figures of Chun Qiu and Fei Long, weighing the few taels of silver Chun Qiu had tossed him in his palm, and couldn't help but chuckle. This brother is quite a considerate person. Interesting. He then tucked the few taels of silver into his bosom, turned to face the group of guards behind him who were looking at him eagerly, and chided with a laugh. What are you looking at me for? Can I really just pocket this little bit of silver? Get to work. After our shift tonight, I'll treat you all to a drink in Fufeng City. I'm telling you in advance. Only order 1 woman, and I'll pay for your touches. Anyone who orders more pays for themselves. Wentian Market did not allow people to stay overnight. Only inns could accommodate them. Once the inns were full, everyone else had to leave the market. This was a rule of Wentian Market. There was a rule in Wentian Market that fighting was forbidden. Many people came here daily to seek revenge. One force might be fine, but when many forces came to seek revenge, even with a golden core stage cultivator overseeing Wentian Market, it couldn't withstand the pressure. However, these people seeking revenge often paid generously for the protection of Wentian Market. Thus, after deliberation, Wentian Market established this rule. It ensured that they did not offend too many forces while also guaranteeing a good income. Not far from Wentian Market, on the same mountaintop, there was a small auxiliary city with numerous inns, restaurants, brothels, etc., for those who did not wish to descend the mountain at night or for merchants from Wentian Market to stay. In the auxiliary city, there was no rule against fighting. The guard squad of Wentian Market operated on a rotating shift system, working every other day. Tomorrow was their day off, so he would take his brothers to Fufeng City to have a good time and see the rumored geisha from the capital who wouldn't sell herself for even 3 spirit stones, to see what kind of charm she possessed, and to open his brother's eyes. The guard commander's face was beaming with a joyous smile as he thought about the evening's entertainment, and he worked even harder. As a guard of Wentian Market, cleaning up the traces of battles around Wentian Market was his duty. That guy didn't have to give him a tip at all. But with the sudden extra income, the smile on his lips was still a little hard to hide. "Can you fly?" Chun Xiu quickly walked up to the young man they had met earlier at the cliff edge. "Take me somewhere quickly. You name the price." "Where to?" The young man, dressed as a scholar, looked up, casually glanced at Chun Xiu, then lowered his head again and said indifferently, "How fast the world changes. Is it now popular to wander around with a wraith? For body heat to cool down?" Chun Xiu squatted down to be at eye level with the scholar and calmly said, "There's no specific location. Within 100 li radius, where is there a place with many vicious beasts? Many, but not too many, preferably not Yao beasts that move in groups, but rather those with strong territorial awareness. And the strongest vicious beast's cultivation should not exceed the Qi refinement stage. Furthermore, this place must be unclaimed, not belonging to any force, where hunting vicious beasts would not violate the Great Xia laws, and no one would obstruct it." Tisk. The scholar, sitting cross-legged on the ground, closed the small picture book in his hand, looked at Chun Xiu in front of him with a profound expression, and suddenly laughed. "Yes, of course there is. 20 li to the west. There is exactly such a place as you described. It has no name. It's in a stone cave at the bottom of a natural ground fissure cliff, about several hundred zhang from the surface. There is only one type of Yao beast inside, called the human-faced spider. This is a Yao beast whose cultivation can never break through the foundation establishment stage, and it will not develop sentience. It prefers cold and damp environments. But they are a tribal vicious beast, reproduce quickly, rarely act alone in groups, and have an extremely strong desire for revenge for their companions. Do you want to go?" Chun Xiu pondered for a moment, then nodded seriously. "Yes. How long will it take to get there?" 3 breaths. 3 breaths again? Heh! The scholar chuckled. "The world is vast, and 3 breaths can take you anywhere. Good. But you need to wait for me there, and pick me up after 1 hour. Then give me 1 spirit stone." Then the scholar slowly closed the small picture book in his embrace, carefully tucked it away, and immediately after, the bearded man they had already met once at the bottom of the mountain appeared beside them without them noticing. Before they could speak again, they saw the scholar raise his right hand to his face, his thumb and index finger lightly touching, the other 3 fingers naturally extended, forming a Dao hand seal, and he whispered, "Knock." The next second, a blue-edged long sword, its blade constantly trembling, shot out fiercely from the scholar's hemp robe sleeve, transforming into a wisp of blue light and vanishing into the clouds in the blink of an eye. After 3 breaths, the scholar seemed to sense something. His lips moved slightly, and his body instantly dissipated from its original spot, leaving only a rush mat woven from dried grass. Before Chun Xiu and Fei Long could react, the bearded man standing beside them grabbed their arms, and immediately the surrounding scenery began to spin again. In less than a breath, when the scenery returned to normal, They were already standing on a desolate plain where the surrounding land was completely parched and full of cracks. Chun Xiu looked around in disbelief. There was not a single moo of spirit fields, not a single official road, not a wisp of human smoke. It was as if this place had been abandoned and suffered a severe drought for 3 years. Looking far to the east, he could vaguely see an extremely long mountain range enveloped in mist. That was the Wentian mountain range, and Wentian Market was named after it. Because of its location on a plain with a vast view, although he couldn't determine if it was 20 li from the Wentian mountain range, the distance was certainly not short. In other words, they instantly moved 20 li in 3 breaths. He also roughly guessed the scholar's word art, or the means of his cultivation technique. It should be the ability to instantly move to wherever his flying sword arrived. He just didn't know if there were any distance limitations. First, let the flying sword reach the destination, then the scholar instantly moves there, and the scholar's younger brother then instantly moves them to the scholar's side. With such a method, the world is vast, and 3 breaths can take you anywhere, was not an exaggeration. He originally wanted to ask Fei Long if a normal foundation establishment stage cultivator's flying sword could be this fast, but seeing Fei Long's jaw drop to the ground in disbelief, he roughly guessed the answer. We've arrived. The scholar, still sitting cross-legged on the ground, looked at Chun Xiu and Fei Long and said with a gentle smile, "The bottom of this fissure is the stone cave of the human-faced spider." Fei Long, who had recovered by then, finally noticed that the young man dressed as a scholar seemed to have some hidden ailment in his legs and could not stand normally.